Hey, it's Andrew here at BTO Range in Conroe, Texas again, and today we're going to talk a little bit about this Beretta pistol. It's the Beretta Model 71 in 22 long rifle. In the United States, they were marketed and sold as the Jaguar. Beretta was pretty big on their cat names throughout the 60s and 70s with the Jaguar and the Cheetah and the Puma and the Bobcat and the Minx and all that manner of stuff. Most of that was J.L. Galef, one of the primary importers of Beretta during the time, but this was the Model 71. So the 71 has a pretty interesting history, particularly in Israel and in Europe. And there's all type of stories of Mossad involvement and known involvement with sky marshals of the Israeli airline El Al. We'll talk about that in a second. But the origins of this gun go back to 1958. This particular model, this exact pistol here, was made in 1967. So it's pre-68, pre-Gun Control Act of 68, so pre-import marking requirement, and pre-import score requirement, which was something that did change the face of this gun in October of 68. So 1958, they introduced this particular little pistol. It took the place of the Beretta 1934, 1935 series guns, carried over some of those design features, and they kind of melded in some of the design features of the model 1951 or the Brigadier 9mm pistol. We still have the open top slide, which we see today on Beretta models like the 92 series, 96 series, things of that nature. The Beretta 80X, the new Cheetah, still with the cat name, still has that open top slide. But we started gathering some more stuff come in on this small gun that the 34-35 didn't have, that came from that 1951. So let's clear it out real quick and then look at some of the features of this pistol. And this is an earlier series. Again, they were introduced 58. This gun, this exact gun, was made in 67. So the magazine release on this gun is a heel-based magazine release, push button here. Remove the 8-round magazine. These original 8-round magazines are super scarce. They're not being made anymore, certainly not by Beretta. This is a original Beretta magazine. They are being remade by a company called Triple K, and those are kind of hit and miss as to whether they're going to work for you real well or not. So the opportunity arrives to get additional magazines for one of these. If you have one at a reasonable price, that's something that needs to be done. So we pull the magazine. We're going to pull the hammer back to allow us to move this slide back so we're nice and clear. So on this gun, we have a push button safety right here, which is the same as on a Beretta 1951. We have a push button safety. So theoretically, this gun could be carried in a cocked and locked kind of condition like this, with that crossbolt safety on. It positively locks the hammer in the rear position, and then with that crossbolt safety off, it allows the hammer to fall. And most people don't. And in fact, again, the story goes that the Israelis carried the gun with the chamber empty, and upon drawing they would run the slide to chamber around and go from there. But so anyway, this crossbolt safety would get changed out on later guns after, I think, 75. We see the 1911 style flip safety here, lever safety, in place of this crossbolt. So we have the old style Beretta logo here on the grip. Still has the arrows that the Beretta logo has today, but it's a different format, or it looks different than the logo. This is the older Beretta logo from the 50s and 60s. So now on this particular model, or as they went into the 70 series guns, we see this slope up here that's different than the 1934, 1935 that preceded it. And again, we still have that mag catch down here at the bottom. So we also have the grips, the two grip panels. They come together here and are across the back strap. This is part of the grip panel. They meet back here, similar to the 1951. And then some of the later models in the smaller frame guns, the little 22 and 25 guns. So, and then we have what was billed as a quick takedown lever. This lever here is a takedown lever, and it is even written in Italian smontaggio, which is one of my favorite Italian words ever, smontaggio, which roughly means disassembly in Italian. So that's marked here in a semicircle right here in front of that lever. So we'll take it down here in a little bit. It's not terribly difficult, but it is tightly fitted. So this gun, when it originated in '58, there was a Model 70 and Model 71. The Model 70 was the Puma. It was chambered in 7.65 millimeter Browning, which we know as .32 auto. And the 71 Jaguar, which was .22 long rifle. So it didn't take long for them to bring out several versions of that, and I think we have some still pictures we'll run up here. The Model 72 was this gun that came with a second barrel. This is 3.5, and the other barrel, the longer barrel, is 5.9 inches. So the Model 72 was the gun with both barrels. The Model 73 was the 5.9 inch barrel only, with the sights on the barrel instead of back here on the rear of the slide. It was mounted here, basically on the barrel. The Model 74 had an adjustable sight, and then we go into the 75 and the 76, which were the target versions of the gun. So there was quite a different variety of these little guns in .22 long rifle. So in 1968, October of '68, we've talked about it on many of these episodes because it had such a wide-ranging effect on the U.S. gun industry. The Gun Control Act of '68 limited importation of firearms, and it based whether a firearm was able to be imported on various criteria which it deemed made the gun suitable for sporting purposes. If the gun was not suitable for sporting purposes by virtue of not meeting those criteria, it could not be imported. So we lost a lot of guns that had been imported previously. We lost Walther PPKs, we lost the small Berettas, we lost the Bernadellis, we lost, large Browning, baby Browning, we lost it from FN. We lost the ability to import a large number of guns based on a relatively arbitrary chart of dimensions and features such as adjustable sights, non-adjustable sights, adjustable sights scoring higher than, and the barrel being a certain length, the height here being a certain height. So we lost basically this gun. So there were some modifications made with the sights and just some minor changes that allowed it to be imported after that Gun Control Act went into effect. And for the first little bit, they even changed the model number. You see some models, same basic gun, marked as a Model 100, Model 101. It's the 100 series. They're only done for a very short period of time, maybe a year, maybe 2 years at the most. And then they reverted back to the original model designations of 71, 72, so forth. Because I don't know why. I don't know why they went to the Model 100 to begin with, but they did. And those are kind of rare to come up with. Around, excuse me, around 1975, we get the adoption of a magazine safety where the gun will not fire with the magazine removed. And then that changed, it added an S designation to the back of the model number. So in 32, it'd be the Model 70S. And we also see the gun being produced in 9mm short, 9mm corto in Italian, or 380 ACP is what we call it in the States. And that was designed for export only, but we see those also, and I forget which cat name that was when it was being imported during that time period. So these go away In about 1985 is when production stops on these guns. And so that's a pretty healthy run, 58 to 85, some 27 years by my public school math. So there's quite a few of them out there, but they're not all created equal. So, for example, in the 80s, late 80s, maybe early 90s, Century Arms International got a bunch of these surplused out. The thought process or the story is from Israel. And they're threaded, and because they couldn't be imported because of those size restrictions we talked about, those import restrictions, they pinned a fake suppressor to the barrel, permanently attached it with a blind pin. They pinned the fake suppressor to the barrel to make it long enough to be imported. So those, we see a bunch of those out there now. This one is pre-import requirement, so it's not a threaded barrel gun. So we didn't have that issue with this particular pistol. So what about that Israeli connection? Well, it's as well documented as any Mossad thing can be documented, but there are numerous stories and numerous anecdotes about Mossad using this particular model pistol with silencers to do what Mossad does, especially after the '72 Olympics. There is documented instance of El Al sky marshals taking out a airplane hijacker in the '70s with one of these pistols. So there is a little bit of a storied history, and they've been in a ton of movies. Roger Moore as James Bond had one in, I don't remember which Bond, the spy that came in from the cold. It was one of the Bond movies, one of the Roger Moore Bond movies. I'll have to go back and watch that whole series again. And speaking of that, we've got another Beretta we'll do a video on here in the very near future, the very first Bond gun, the Beretta 418 and 25 Auto. So the pin silencer guns, that can be removed. You drill from the back side, punch the pin to access the back of the pin, punch that out. And then barrels were threaded half 20. And most silencers, rimfire silencers, at least in the States, are half 28. So the good news is adapters from half 20 to half 28 are easy to find. They're just out there everywhere on the market, good ones. So if you do have one of those Century Arms imported ones with a fake silencer, it can be pretty easily converted to where a traditional half 28 direct thread suppressor can be put on it. So the issue that you have once you put the silencer on it is the sight height, because there aren't any tall sights. So once you've got the suppressor threaded on it, you're not going to be super accurate with it. But again, you know, if you're the Mossad guy or the LL guy, it's probably not the mission. So let's look at some of the markings on it, then we'll take it down. We talked about the old school Beretta logo. We have the serial number here on the right side of the frame under the slide. The Italian word for disassembly here, smontaggio, made in Italy on the slide. So we have proof marks here on the right side of the grip frame. Grip frame on this gun on the 22 is aluminum. And so we see the proof date in Roman numerals on it. And the Roman numerals doesn't say 1967. There's a chart that you have to look it up at. But it's out there. Now, Italian guns are still proofed, but they use the last two digits of the year inside of a box, and they'll be on the gun somewhere. But this is during the Roman numeral phase for 1967. And then on the left side, we have the standard Beretta slide marking, the Pietro Beretta slide marking, and the location in Italy. So, super cool little gun. Let's see what we have to do to take it apart. So obviously we have the magazine out, and that's an 8-round magazine. We talked about some of the versions of this. So the which one was it? Oh, the Model 73, which had the sights on the barrel and the longer 5.9-inch barrel. They had 10-round magazines with them, so there's a little bit of difference there. So once we're magazine out, we're sure that the gun is clear. This notch right here in the slide, we're going to bring that back to where we can rotate this takedown lever. Doing it this way on camera. We go, whoops. We're going to rotate that takedown lever to where that flat on that lever is still parallel to the slide. So now we can remove the slide and the barrel off the front. Now, sometimes you can just, there we go. It can be a little tight sometimes because the barrel is fitting into this slot right here. And if that's the case, you can retract the slide slightly, let it fly forward, and it will kind of work its way off. Or you can use a non-marring mallet or what have you to do that. So our ejector's here, our ejector's not broken, that's good. So now this is not a captured spring, so we have to be very mindful that it doesn't come launching out at us. So we remove the recoil spring and its guide, and then we can remove the barrel. Now notice that the slide is slit on the front. That's not solid because it has to clear where this front sight goes. And we can remove the barrel out of it. So when it's sitting in the frame, it's sitting in the frame as such. It's maybe hard to, I haven't tried to do it without the whole thing put together. But it's a pretty precise fit in there. There it goes. So it sits in there like that when it's together. So, but you take the entire unit out. So it's relatively easy to fill strip, relatively easy to clean, and put back together. So it's kind of user friendly in that regard. So to thread this barrel, it can be threaded. We could thread it half 28, and by doing so, we would remove about half or most of the slant here on this sight post. So we would take this sight post back to about right here, and then we would be threaded. It's still a minimal amount of barrel thread. Moving forward here, I wouldn't like to, normally we go about 400 thousandths of thread, thread length, I guess is the best way to put it, but you just really can't get there on this gun, but it'll work. The serial number, the barrel is serialized. On the gun that came with a 2-barrel set, both barrels were serialized to the gun. So if you're looking at that Model 73 or Model 72, look at the serial numbers on the barrel. So what do these things go for? Well, they have really jumped up in price over the last few years. That's for sure. When they were first being imported in, they were 60 bucks. But that was a long time ago. A lot of stuff was cheaper then. But even when Century Arms was bringing them in, they were a couple of $100. I want to say, I don't think they were 300 bucks when Century was selling those that they surplused in. But now, a gun in this condition, an original gun in this condition, is $600 all day long. Actual hammer prices on Gunbroker, things of that nature. It's pretty realistic to think they're going to go for that money, and sometimes more. The lesser known pieces, or the pieces with 2 barrels, can go for substantially higher than that. So they're kind of a sleeper on the collector market. Beretta collectors obviously know a bunch of them, and they'll pay a little bit more sometimes for those 100 mark guns simply from the scarcity part. Same thing we always talk about, originality, scarcity, and condition. So this gun is all original. The grips are there. They're not cracked. They're not replaced. It's the original magazine. That's actually pretty huge on this gun. It's not a triple K replacement mag. So everything's right on this gun. And so we're really happy to have the opportunity to buy it when it came across the counter at the range. So anyway, the Model 71 Jaguar, the little Mossad operative, sneaky gun of choice. So if you like what we're doing, send us a comment there in the video, in the comment section of the video. Hit that notification bell, hit that subscription button. We enjoy hearing from you. We're really excited and really happy with the amount of support you guys are showing to this channel. It means a bunch to us. It keeps us doing this stuff on a regular basis, and we try to post stuff every week as cool stuff comes in the range. And fortunately, we're lucky to where there's always something new to talk about. So that's one of the best parts of my week, is figuring out which gun we're going to talk about next, because I usually have a few choices, and that's a good spot to be in. So again, thanks for watching. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next one.